This week, we'll talk about prestige mechanics in incremental games. Prestige mechanics are essentially something that resets your progress, but gives you some bonuses to make your next run more effective, or even unlock more content. They are really common in incrementals, but not every incremental has them. Usually, incrementals with a clear ending don't have a prestige mechanic. There's three types of prestige: normal, forced, and semi-forced. Normal is the most common one. It basically lets you keep playing for as long as you want, reset, and gain bonuses based on how far you got. This is really common, and most well-known games use it. Games like Cookie Clicker, Adventure Capitalist, and Clicker Heroes use normal prestiges. Usually, when games have this type of prestige, the game becomes a grind at some point, making you repeatedly do resets to get your prestige currencies higher to be able to progress. The best way to implement this would be to add meaningful things evenly in the game, so the game doesn't get too repetitive on the grinds. Forced prestige means that after you reach a certain point, you can't keep going, you have to reset. Some players really dislike this mechanic because they don't like being forced. This is quite rare though. One example would be Antimatter Dimensions before you break infinity. Semi-forced prestige is the combination of the two previous ones. You can keep going as long as you like, but won't get any bonus from going further. This is rarer than normal prestige, but more common than forced. For example, reincarnations in Realm Grinder. These resets have you reach a certain point, and after you surpass that, there's no reason to go on. These kinds of resets typically unlock more content. But what happens after the prestige? That varies from game to game. Usually, you just gain a prestige currency that boosts your production by a percentage each, or something like that. There's also usually some upgrades that you can buy with the currency, but not always. In some games, you spend your prestige currency on perks or skills. Other games, like Shark Game, have you start again at different worlds, with production modifiers to some resources. Other games, like Clicker Heroes, allow you to buy upgrades and then invest more prestige currency in them to allow the upgrades to become more powerful. There are lots of unique features in different incremental games, so if you can come up with something more original than just a plain prestige currency that boosts all production, you should definitely do so. There are other decisions games also make regarding prestige mechanics, namely the first prestige and how much your game is sped up from it. The first reset could be anywhere from within an hour of starting to a few days. Sometimes it can be a really long time though. For example, the first reset in Kitten's game can take months. This is a really risky move though, because you have to keep the player interested for the entirety of those months for them just to get there. And if the bonus you get after all that time is minor, people will definitely stop playing. Usually, it's good to have the first reset show clear signs of speeding things up, especially if it takes a lot of time to reach. Nothing is more demotivating than resetting all your progress and not gaining a meaningful bonus from it. One example of a bad prestige from an otherwise good game would be Universal Paperclips. The prestige basically gave you a 10% bonus to production, which is way too small to justify starting the game over. You want to make the prestige mechanics meaningful, even on the first reset. Some incrementals also have multiple layers of resets. Upper layers typically reset the lower layers as well. Notable games would be Realm Grinder with 2 layers, abdications that are a basic production multiplier from a prestige currency, and reincarnations that you can do after certain prestige currency thresholds. Reincarnations also reset your prestige currency, but you gain additional bonuses and unlock new features. Perfect Tower has quite a few layers of prestige for itself as well. My own game in the upcoming update will have 4 layers of prestige and 2 micro prestiges. Each layer is different and unlocks different things. Whatever a developer decides the prestige should be is totally fine, but it needs to be balanced. Forcing players to start over for negligible benefits is never a good thing, and it'll just make the player give up on the game much more quickly than if the game had a good, balanced prestige mechanic that allowed the player to feel meaningful progress. The ideal prestige mechanic, in my opinion, would be both meaningful and have depth. It would make every run feel different, and would provide more than just a simple production boost. Never underestimate the power of a longer, more rewarding game.